If you can relate to a culture of toxic competitiveness in academics, then this video is for you. You can just imagine someone working extremely hard the entire year so that they could try and win or beat their peers to the top position. And then at the end of it, when they don't achieve that, the feeling of failure and the feeling of regret, I could have done this better, I could have done that better. But in actuality, the fact that they were in the running in the first place and gave everything of themselves meant that they did their best and they actually have something to be proud of. But here they are sitting with a feeling of failure, something's off there. And then even for the winner, the person who has this goal in mind that they want to win, they want to beat everyone else, and that's the thing that's motivating them every day, and they work as hard as they can, they wanted it more than everyone else, yes, and they deserved it, and they achieved it, and now what? And they have this feeling of emptiness as well. Something's not right about the whole situation. And you find with these winners, what happens is a lot of the times the feeling of triumph is not rooted in a sense of accomplishment or glory. It's more so rooted in a sense of relief that they did not lose, or relief that now the pressure's over and they can relax and they've finally done it, they've finally won. Neither the winning side or the losing side is really winning here. And there's something deeply problematic about this. And it's not just the fact that once it's all over, both sides are left with a feeling of emptiness. It's the fact that on the way to this, people are losing their morals, losing their ethical frameworks, and it's a degradation of their honor in the pursuit of this. They're stepping on each other. They are forgetting that their relationships are actually the most important thing that they should be worrying about and concerned about. But they've let it go, and now they're all in the pursuit of this thing that's all relative, and they don't even have full control over it. So there's something wrong here, and I think it needs to be addressed and spoken about. I'm actually surprised that I haven't seen more things about this online. Now, the first thing we have to recognize is that it's not only everybody else's fault. If we find ourselves in this environment, we've had a part to play, whether we like it or not. So we might think, oh, but if only this guy was, or if this girl was more giving of themselves and a little bit less selfish, and if they didn't try and shaft me and fox me, then I would have shared my resources with them, and I would have been, and we would have had a good environment, and everyone would have been more helpful, and everyone would be better off. But we have to realize that we didn't do any of those things, and so we've had a part to play, and we don't know what would have happened if we had have been helpful, if we had have reached out to these people who were seeking help, or rather, if these people who were even trying to lead us astray, if we had have, so that they could win, so these people are trying to set us back so that they can win. If we had have showed them some kindness and offered some resources to them and tried to be of help to them, then maybe just maybe, they would have given something back as well. And everyone would have been better off, and it would have changed the environment slowly, and everyone would have been in a more cooperative academic environment that's actually conducive to learning, and everyone can achieve. And it's not just about beating the person next to you, it's about beating the paper that's in front of you. Because after all, when you're writing assessments and writing exams, tests, it's just us and the page. We literally cannot interact with anyone around us, and yet we still see this as a competition. It really doesn't make that much sense. Now, by being selfless and helping everyone else, you stand to lose less than you stand to gain. So what I mean by that is, by giving to other people, even if they're not giving to yourself, yes, you stand to lose the position of top spot, but the things that you stand to gain by giving is way greater than what you stand to lose, because you're keeping your morals intact. And in fact, what happens if you are giving to a large, diverse group of people, everyone on their own academic struggles, what you find is you become this center for help, and everyone comes to you, and you create this positive environment around yourself, and you become this almost like a pivot point where everyone comes towards you, and you attract other people. And now it's not just about the fact that you are helping them, they also start to help you. People recognize that it's not always one-way relationships. And if you are being taken advantage of and it is a one-way relationship, of course don't stand up for that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you must just give and never worry about whether you're getting anything in return. I don't think it's like that. Yes, it's not strictly transactional. It shouldn't strictly be transactional. But at the same time, don't get taken advantage of. If someone keeps asking you for things and never gives you any help, aid, or resources in return, then of course you can cut that off. Of course you can cut that off. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to keep letting yourself be trod over. It doesn't have to be like that. But then also don't be that guy that's keeping track, keeping count, and making sure that it's a one-for-one transactional relationship. That's not the type of person we want to be either. We're trying to create an open environment where everyone can benefit from it. And you actually stand to gain more, because if you are this person that everyone comes to for help, then you have a lot of people that are in debt to you. So you can go and ask a lot of different people for help, and there's bound to be someone in this group that can help you. And we also have to realize that our peers are the most valuable people in our academic journey. Yes, we have the lecturers or teachers that are actually giving us the content and portraying understanding, and we have textbooks and resources and all these things. But these are all given, they're not going anywhere. What we often don't have is that we can actually have the biggest impact on is a strong relationship with our peers, so that when we give and give and give, then we can eventually receive from them. And it's not just giving so that you can receive, you're giving with the intent of trying to help. And when you give with the intent of trying to help, then people recognize it as authenticity, and then they give to you without expecting in return. And then you become this person that's well connected in your class group, your year group, and everyone comes to you for help, and you can ask anyone for help. Now, yes, I know that rings off alarm bells and you're thinking, oh, but what now if everyone's coming to me for help? Then when the hell am I going to do my own work? Yes, you have the right to say, listen, I can't help you right now. I'm under pressure myself or whatever. And just say it in a kind way so that they can understand. But then if it's something that's, you've already read the message, or you've already understood what this person's asking for you, and now you kind of already know the answer, you might as well just give it right then and there. It's not a lot to give, but you stand a lot to gain in terms of your social bank accounts. This is a principle that my headmaster taught me at school. His name was Mr. Knowles, David Knowles. He was a brilliant headmaster. So he basically taught us that with everyone that you interact with, you have a social bank account with them. And as you build positive interactions, your bank balance increases. And then as you build negative interactions, obviously it decreases. Now you want to keep everyone around you in positive balances. And that means that you're well connected, everyone likes you, you are the person that people turn to for help, you're the person that people don't hesitate to help as well. Essentially, that's what it leads to. And you're this person that is so well connected that everyone wants to, you're almost like an attractive force, and good things come to you because of it, especially if you're doing it from a good place and you're not doing it so that down the line you can ask for a favor to bring that bank balance down into even or all square, whatever it is. You're doing it so that you can have these positive bank balances, so that everyone around you, you have a wealth, a social wealth. That's what we're going for. We're trying to accumulate as much social wealth as we can, because it really does pay. It pays an interest, and it pays outright when you ask for help. And that's what we're trying to do here. And those are the things that really end up eliminating the toxic academic culture that is so prevalent in so many academic institutions. Now, I've made mention to this, but the problem with a relative goal is that we don't have full control over whether it's something that we're going to or can accomplish. Just think that if you were in a different school, a different university, different college, or you were in a different grade, different year group, or there was one extra person in your year group who was smarter than you, no matter what it was, there was just a slight thing different, and all of a sudden you might lose out on this goal. Whereas in both situations, you would have put in the same effort, but in one situation, with a slight change, different year group, different university, one extra person, whatever it is, that situation, you end up losing. But in a situation where you've done exactly the same things, it's just your environment that's slightly different, you end up winning. And then they both lead to different senses of achievement or success. One, you're sitting with an empty feeling of failure, and another one, you're still sitting with an empty feeling, but just an empty feeling of success. But both of them, you've put in the exact same amount of effort. So yes, it's a relative goal, and because it's relative to everyone around you, you don't have full control over it, and it's a bad thing to pursue. Now, I do recognize that a relative goal compared to your classmates, given that your class size is large enough, this relative goal can sometimes be more of an accurate representation of how much you understand and how much you've taken in, because we've all been there where we have different subjects, different courses, where we've put in a lot of effort into both of them, and the top mark in one of them is extremely high, and the top mark in another is, well, obviously it would be high, but it wouldn't be as high. and your mark, maybe you put in equal effort into two different subjects and you did much better in one and much worse in the other, and you know that it's not because you don't have a uniquely inherent talent for the one of them. You know it's because of the test was maybe something harder, or the marking standard is different. There's all these different things. So yes, we can all acknowledge that a strict grading system where a 0 to 100 scale is not necessarily the best reflection of your understanding, which is what we're seeking. We're seeking a metric that can best reflect your level of learning and understanding, because that's the thing that you've been doing. You've been learning and understanding. So we want to measure this. And yes, we know that a grade or mark out of 100, a result, is not the best way because of these things that I've said. And we can understand that a relative scale where you get placed may be better, because with that scale, if your class size is large enough, then you get put in a position, and that's quite objective. So if the top mark is 78 versus the top mark being 95, both of those people have placed first. So you could say, if your class size was large enough, the first person in each of those subjects would have put in as much as they could have, would have done things pretty well. And one's a 78, one's a 95, but they both are first. So if your class size is large enough, we can be more sure that they've both put in a lot of effort, which means that that number one ranking is quite similar. So we would rank that 78 and that 95 equally, even though they're not equal. So then a relative scale becomes, or a ranking system becomes, more effective at measuring our understanding. But we still, despite this, have to realize that we can use it to assess our understanding, but that shouldn't be the goal. Our goal should be to achieve the greatest level of understanding and learning as possible. That's the goal. And it's difficult because the metrics that we have for this are weak metrics. So the grading system can be biased, can be unfair. The 0 to 100, that has its flaws, which I talked about. And the relative system, ranking system, has its flaws, which I talked about. So we really have to look at it in unison and assess our performance truthfully and honestly to ourselves, as opposed to just rooting for a top position or just rooting for a high mark. We kind of have to look at it in balance. We can maybe, the best way to do it is to get an understanding of the level of difficulty in the course and say that you want to achieve a certain mark range, rather look at a certain mark range. Usually you can tell in advance, this is a course or this is a subject where the marks are typically going to be a bit lower, or this is a course where the marks are going to be a bit higher. And then you gear yourself towards that and you set up your goals towards this range. And then on this range, you can aim to be in another range in terms of ranking system. So that way, you're really using both of them to have a measurable goal, because otherwise our goal is not, it's not measurable if we just say we want to understand as much as possible, because then who's the judge of that? We have to have some sort of metric, and these things are the metrics, and we realize their flaws and we take them with their flaws, and maybe the best way to do it in advance so that we can have a measurable goal to measure our success is have a balance of these two, so that we don't end up robbing ourselves of the sense of success, sense of fulfillment, whether we have achieved or not in terms of a ranking goal or in terms of a goal with marks, strict marks.